she's now bragging about the success of Snow White, which is a movie that's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars, and mainly because of her, and because nobody wanted to support her.
Yeah, we had more dwarfs than we did viewers in most of these theaters. And as you know, there were no dwarfs other than some CGI weird generated version of them.
Welcome back to Pop Flash, the place where we serve up the hottest Hollywood gossip and the juiciest celebrity scandals you can't afford to miss. Today's story is massive, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. You've probably heard all the buzz about the Snow White remake, but hold on to your seats. This one's about to get even crazier.
I think it's fair to say that no one can stand the star of this movie.
You can talk, you can say you work a job, whatever. You cannot talk about trade secrets and certainly not compromise our investigative journalists in the field. What, so no free speech?
We're talking $500 million down the drain, and a leading lady caught up in a media firestorm. Yes, folks, Disney is seriously demanding a refund from none other than Rachel Zegler. But what exactly went wrong with this high-budget remake? And how did the Snow White saga turn into one of Hollywood's most controversial productions? Let's dive in. It's no secret that the Snow White remake has become one of the biggest disappointments in recent Hollywood history. The film has been getting slammed left and right by both critics and audiences alike. And the numbers don't lie. There's been a jaw-dropping 70% drop in week-to-week earnings at the box office, and it's clear that this movie is struggling to stay afloat. To put it bluntly, this is a disaster on an epic scale. For a film that carried a whopping $270 million production budget, not to mention an additional $230 million spent just on promotional campaigns, these numbers are nothing short of catastrophic. It's a financial nightmare that Disney never saw coming.
I don't really care about that. What I care about is how she hated the story because it needed to be wokeified, and she hated the fact that there was going to be a Prince Charming of some sort, and they needed to update it.
According to inside sources, Disney is now in full-blown panic mode, desperately trying to find a way to salvage what's left of this sinking ship. And now, whispers from the inside suggest something truly shocking. Rumors say that Disney might be going after none other than Rachel Zegler to pay up. Yes, you heard that right. Some sources claim that the studio is demanding that the Snow White star return a portion of her massive paycheck to help cover the monumental losses that the film has racked up. But why her? What's the connection between Zegler's words and the movie's catastrophic failure at the box office? Well, buckle up because here's where the drama takes a sharp turn. Zegler's controversial comments during press interviews didn't just ruffle a few feathers, they completely stirred up a storm in the film industry. She didn't hold back when she openly trashed the original 1937 Snow White, calling it outdated and, most shockingly, slamming the prince as stalker-like.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
But that's not all. Zegler boldly stated that the new Snow White would be saved not by true love, but by leadership and empowerment, setting off a chain reaction of backlash. Rumors say that Disney's executives were fuming behind the scenes. They knew exactly how the diehard fans of the original Snow White would react to Zegler's comments. They feared it would be a huge slap in the face to anyone who holds that classic film near and dear. And guess what? They were right. The backlash was immediate. Social media went into a frenzy. Fans flooded the internet with angry rants, and critics wasted no time in calling Zegler's remarks disrespectful and tone-deaf.
Now, one thing that is already universally known at this point by the general public is the fact that Disney is in full-on damage control mode.
But these guys at Disney, they're not that bright, they're not that smart, and we see that because they can't come up with any new IP.
But here's the million-dollar question. Was this really the message that Disney wanted to send about one of their most beloved and iconic franchises? Was Zegler's fiery stance on the Snow White story the final nail in the coffin for this disastrous remake? Hold on a second. The drama surrounding the Snow White remake, it's about to go into overdrive. As things continued to spiral out of control, a massive shift in how Disney handled the situation unfolded. Rumors say that instead of stepping up to defend their leading lady, the studio actually decided to remove Rachel Zegler from several key promotional appearances. Yes, you heard that right. They pulled her from the spotlight in what seemed like an attempt to shield her from the mounting backlash. But why? What exactly was Disney hoping to achieve by keeping Zegler off the press circuit? Was this an effort to silence any more controversial statements from her? Or was there something deeper at play here? Sources who are close to Disney suggest that the real reason behind this move was to protect the movie's reputation from going completely down the drain. The film, already under fire for its disastrous reception, was in full damage control mode. The studio was scrambling, trying to figure out how to handle the growing public outrage, and pulling Zegler from public appearances seemed like their best option. Could it have been part of a larger strategy to distance the film from the controversy surrounding its star? Maybe it was a calculated move to give the movie a chance to breathe, without the heat of Zegler's comments hanging over it. Whatever the true reason, it's clear that Disney was doing everything in its power to mitigate the fallout from the fiasco. But just when Disney thought it couldn't get any worse, here comes the final blow. South Park. Oh yes, South Park. The show that never misses an opportunity to skewer Hollywood, took aim at the Snow White remake. And let me tell you, they didn't hold back. The show absolutely shredded the film, mocking every single aspect, from the radical reimagining of the classic tale to the controversial feminist angle. And of course, they didn't forget to target Zegler's now infamous interview comments. The South Park episode went viral in record time. It wasn't just a harmless jab, it was a brutal takedown. The memes started pouring in. The jokes flew, and social media lit up with scathing commentary about the remake. According to rumors, the parody didn't just offer some lighthearted mockery, it went straight for the jugular. South Park mocked the tone deafness of the entire film, especially its approach to modernizing such a beloved classic. They also took aim at the odd casting choices, which seemed to add fuel to the fire. With each cutting line, the public's disdain for the movie grew. What had once been a highly anticipated release now felt like a complete disaster in the making. People were not just laughing, they were piling on, and suddenly, Snow White became a symbol of everything that was wrong with Hollywood's recent trend of remaking classics in a way that didn't respect the original spirit. And if Disney thought the controversy surrounding the film was already unbearable, South Park's savage parody turned the situation up to an entirely new level. What began as a series of awkward press moments and negative social media buzz was now a full-blown public spectacle. It seemed like there was no escaping the backlash. The Snow White remake wasn't just a flop. It was a PR nightmare. And no matter how much Disney tried to salvage it, the damage had already been done. With the satirical gut punch from South Park, the remake's prospects at the box office, let alone its critical reception, looked even bleaker than before. Let's dig into the real question on everyone's lips right now. Why is Disney going after Rachel Zegler so aggressively? According to the latest whispers from within the industry, Disney has pinned the blame for the film's underperformance directly on Zegler, claiming that her comments alienated fans of the original Snow White. They believe that her outspoken words played a major role in turning people off the remake. But hold on. Rumors say that this goes much deeper than just a few controversial comments. Disney isn't simply angry about Zegler's opinions. They're furious about how those opinions negatively impacted the movie's chances at success. Zegler's remarks didn't just stir up a little controversy. They set off a full-blown firestorm. Fans of the 1937 animated classic, who hold the original Snow White near and dear, felt completely betrayed by her words. The backlash hit hard and spread quickly, infecting the general public and turning what was supposed to be a highly anticipated release into a full-blown PR disaster. And let's face it, it's one thing for a film to flop. It's another when that flop becomes the target of relentless media ridicule. Snow White wasn't supposed to be a failure. Disney had put all its hopes on this film to reignite the magic of classic fairy tales and bring them back into the spotlight. This remake was supposed to be a surefire hit. Instead, it has turned into a nightmare that's haunting Disney's brand image. But here's where it gets even juicier. Rumors say that Disney is reportedly considering taking legal action against Zegler. Yes, you read that right. Disney may sue her to recover part of her salary, claiming that she violated her contractual obligations by failing to promote the film in a positive light. If this turns out to be true, it would be an unprecedented move in Hollywood. Never before has a major studio gone after an actor's pay to recover losses caused by a movie's failure. This would be a game changer, and it's got people in the industry shaking their heads in disbelief. Could Disney actually force Zegler to return her paycheck? Could they really go that far? It's a legal gray area that has experts scratching their heads. Some believe that Disney is just desperately looking for someone to blame for their embarrassing flop, while others argue that this could set an incredibly dangerous precedent for how studios handle actors and their public image in the age of social media. Hollywood has always had its fair share of scandals, but this this could be one of the most controversial and potentially explosive moments the industry has ever seen. What's even more wild is that the fallout is only getting started. If Disney does go after Zegler's paycheck, it could open the door to a whole new level of scrutiny for actors, forcing them to toe the line between their personal opinions and their contractual obligations. Could we be witnessing the birth of a brand new standard for the way movies are promoted and how studios handle their talent? Will Disney become the first major studio to set such a precedent, or is this just an isolated incident that will fade away? The drama surrounding Snow White is far from over, and the world is watching with bated breath to see how far Disney is willing to push this. The industry is holding its collective breath, waiting to see whether Zegler will have to give up her paycheck and whether this controversy will be the turning point that changes how Hollywood handles its stars in the digital age. As the scandal unfolds, more and more details are sure to leak, and we'll be here to bring you all the latest updates. Keep your eyes peeled, because this story is far from over, and it's only going to get wilder. Let's take a closer look at Zegler's defense, because things aren't as simple as they seem. Zegler has been adamant that she is not to blame for the failure of the Snow White remake. She's fired back with a strong defense, arguing that her words were taken out of context. Insiders claim that Zegler insists she was simply trying to bring Snow White into the modern era, making her more relatable for today's audiences. However, what really sets things on fire is her claim that Disney itself played a major role in shaping the story and her character's direction. According to Zegler, it wasn't just her doing the reimagining. It was a joint effort with Disney calling the shots. If that's true, then Disney could have created the very mess Zegler is being blamed for. Talk about a twisted situation, but it gets even crazier. If we go by Zegler's version of events, it's clear she might be the victim here. She's stuck in the middle of a PR nightmare, and Disney, known for their polished image, might be pointing the finger at her to cover their own tracks. Zegler's supporters argue that she was simply following the studio's lead, trying to make a classic fairy tale more progressive. Yet, instead of applauding her for pushing boundaries, Disney is now throwing her under the bus. This is starting to look like a classic case of a studio exploiting an actor for their own agenda. Zegler's defenders are furious, claiming that the studio set her up to take the fall for a project that's spiraling out of control. And what's worse is the fact that Zegler is taking all the heat for it. While the higher-ups at Disney remain largely untouched, Zegler may be the one facing the brunt of the backlash. But let's not forget the other actors involved. Take Gal Gadot, for example. While Zegler is being torn apart by the press, Gadot, who plays the evil queen, has managed to sidestep most of the controversy. How? Well, it seems like Gadot has taken a much more calculated approach. She's been extremely careful with her public statements, steering clear of any drama. Gadot has kept things politically correct, choosing her words wisely and avoiding any comments that could potentially stir the pot. This kind of strategic silence is something Zegler could learn from, especially in an industry that thrives on media attention. Gadot's diplomatic approach is paying off in a big way. While Zegler is being vilified, Gadot's low-key, politically correct demeanor has allowed her to avoid being dragged into the mess. By choosing to stay neutral and avoid controversial comments, Gadot has successfully avoided the worst of the media's scrutiny. Experts are quick to point out that in Hollywood, where controversy can make or break your career, a careful public image can be the difference between success and failure. Gadot's cautiousness in interviews and public appearances has allowed her to maintain a pristine image, while Zegler's outspoken nature has made her the target of widespread criticism. This contrast between Zegler and Gadot couldn't be more apparent. While Zegler has been vocal and honest in expressing her thoughts about the film, Gadot has played it safe by steering clear of any potentially controversial remarks, and it's working in her favor. In a world where social media can explode at any moment, staying neutral can be a survival tactic. Gadot has emerged relatively unscathed, while Zegler is stuck in a media storm. But it's not just about avoiding controversy, it's also about the way the press and public view you. Gadot's cool, collected image is the one that's been celebrated, while Zegler's blunt, unapologetic approach has earned her the title of the problematic one. And while Zegler's honesty and willingness to speak her mind might have earned her some fans, it's also led to her downfall. The public loves a good story, but they also love to tear down those who get too loud or too real. Zegler's remarks, which were meant to be empowering and progressive, ended up backfiring spectacularly. Now, instead of being hailed for modernizing the Snow White character, she's being criticized for ruining the film's potential. The irony here is palpable. Zegler was trying to do what Disney wanted her to do, but now she's the one who's paying the price. It's like she's the scapegoat for a much larger issue that's beyond her control. Meanwhile, Gadot has carefully avoided stepping into the line of fire. She's been able to maintain a positive public image while keeping her distance from the controversy that surrounds the film. It's no surprise, then, that while Zegler is caught in the crossfire, Gadot continues to come out on top. She's been able to navigate the media with grace, while Zegler's career has been marred by her outspokenness. The lesson here is clear. In Hollywood, sometimes silence is golden, and it's better to let the chaos pass by than to dive right in. And yet, despite all this, the question remains, should Zegler really be blamed for the film's failure? Her supporters don't think so. They argue that Zegler was simply trying to bring a fresh perspective to a well-known story, and it's Disney who should be taking responsibility for the mess. Instead, they've used her as a scapegoat, pushing her into the spotlight of negative attention, while the real issues are being swept under the rug. If Disney truly believes that Zegler is at fault, then it raises some serious questions about how they handle their talent and their image. Is it fair to blame one person for a project that was doomed from the start? Or is this just a desperate move to salvage what's left of their reputation? With the storm surrounding the Snow White remake, Disney is reportedly rethinking its entire strategy when it comes to live-action remakes. This movie may have been the tipping point for the studio, as insiders are starting to suggest that Disney could completely change its approach to these reimaginings of classic stories. The question everyone's asking, could this massive flop be the wake-up call Disney needs to return to the drawing board and rethink its direction? After all, when a movie fails this spectacularly, even the biggest studios are forced to take a hard look at their choices. Could it be that Disney is realizing they've taken things too far with these over-the-top modernized versions of beloved classics? According to insiders, there's talk inside Disney about possibly dialing back the radical reimaginings and focusing on more faithful adaptations of their most iconic stories. Could the studio be willing to let go of the flashy updates and go back to the tried-and-true formula that fans know and love? With the backlash against Snow White and other controversial reboots, Disney might be facing the hard truth that pushing for progressive changes to these stories isn't always the right move. The public seems to be rejecting the changes, and Disney's reputation is suffering as a result. The word on the street is that some top executives are advocating for a shift back to the classics, the way they used to be. If Disney takes this route, it would be a major pivot, and one that could signal the end of the era of radical reboots and reimaginings. Fans have shown a clear preference for the versions of these stories they grew up with, and Disney could be sensing that it's time to give them what they want. Imagine going back to adaptations that closely resemble the original animated films, staying true to the magic and charm that made them so beloved in the first place. Could this be the direction Disney needs to go in to salvage its brand and restore fan loyalty? While nothing is confirmed just yet, the possibility of a major shift in Disney's live-action remake strategy is certainly on the table. The studio has built its empire on iconic stories, and if they want to keep the magic alive, it may be time for a change. It's anyone's guess whether Disney will take the risk and go back to its roots. But one thing's for sure, the Snow White remake has put a lot of things into perspective. Only time will tell whether Disney will stick to its guns or take a step back and reconsider the future of its live-action reboots. So, what do you think about this mess? Was Zegler just a victim of bad timing, or did she set herself up for failure by making those bold comments? And more importantly, could Disney's attempt to recover from this financial disaster cause even more problems down the line? Stay tuned, because Pop Flash will keep you updated on all the latest Hollywood drama. And trust me, this one is far from over.